Make an epic Halloween costume based on one silly pun? Ha! Never! So this is going to be what happens when you take this guy and mash him up with the Beatles.
I'm the ghostest with the most hits, babes.
I've been sitting on this idea since 2019 when I did Taco Belle, and it's taken me a full 5 months to complete. I'm so excited to share the final make with y'all. So let's go ahead and get to the design phase. The concept is simple even if the construction will not be. We're going to start out with the traditional black and white striped Beetlejuice suit, but we'll add some shoulder pads for oomph. And top those off with some epaulettes and some military trim in the front. We'll add a tricorn hat like George's and a tiny little yellow submarine. And because this is Fantastical Follies and we love corsetry and overcomplications, underneath will be a Beetlejuice striped pair of 18th century reversible stays. Finally, we'll recreate the Sgt. Pepper drum from the album with some ghoulishly fun alterations. If you're new here, we've already made both the witchy reversible stays and the Beetlejuice bass blazer in separate videos. And I've included those as well as the fitting how-tos in the Beetlejuice playlist linked in the description below. First off, can I just say how hard it is to mark on black and white stripes together? I had to completely eyeball these darts. This cotton poplin is not opaque, so like we did with the blazer, it's going to be flatlined with some cheap cotton sheeting. If you watched the mock-up video for these trousers, you know how stupid and tiny the pocket was for this pattern, so here's my giant pocket base instead. The 40s inspired pattern wants you to cut this out of lining and face it, but in the end, that was way too bulky, so I took it out and used the striped poplin instead. Just like when we make skirts, the first thing we need to do is secure the pockets to each side. Plackets always seem so confusing, but in reality, they're usually pretty simple to construct. We're putting this placket in the center front along the part which is colloquially known as the cookie. Like trailer homes, you have one side that's normal wide and one side that's double wide. Does that make any of you want something fried? All jokes aside, the single wide gets turned in at the seam to serve as a facing. The double wide is the actual placket. It gets folded in half, seamed, and then turned right side out. Now we tackle the back cookie seam. You know, for all the terror that fitting trousers evokes, the construction itself is super fast and easy. This next bit is going to be a little bit tricky, since this was originally supposed to be a placket on the side instead of the front. I've intentionally not clipped any of the seams that I'm supposed to clip. On the off chance that it doesn't look good or anything like that, I can undo it all and put it on the side and just suck it up with the pocket issue. Fingers crossed. In other words, I have no idea how to seamlessly transition from placket to cookie seam, so let's just give it a zip in the machine and see how she does. Not bad. That's weird though. The seam is even? Then it was time to attach the sides. And then the inseam. Hello from the next day. Believe it or not, all we have left to do is to add the waistband and hem these guys and they're done. Instant gratification! Woo! We are gonna do something a little cheeky with the waistband though, so let's go do it. Okay, so if you've ever worn a pair of trousers without a stretchy waistband, you know the biggest problem with it is it doesn't have a stretchy waistband. And when you sit, it cuts into you and is very uncomfortable. Nobody likes that. So the flat lining of the waistband is the width it ought to be, minus 6 inches, and cut into 3 pieces. Add to the pot 2 3-inch pieces of elastic. This will result in 2 little spots of stretchy waistband, giving you just that little bit of extra comfort when you sit. These will get attached at the bottom of the flatline fabric to link all 3 waistband pieces together. Make sure you leave room for seam allowance though. Stretchy! Add a waistband that is 4 inches longer. Now flatline the pieces. Note that this is going to be a little tricky because they're different sizes. Stretch the elastic to fit. Baste the pieces together. Sew gathering stitches on the naked fashion fabric. Now the hard part. Match the outside edges to your trousers and pin. Match the back waistband portion with the side seam. Then pull your gathering stitches to fit and pin the fashion fabric to the space in between. Once everything is sewn, press and fold over the waistband like normal. Now introducing my new favorite pair of trousers. They turned out pretty well. I did run into a couple of issues with the pockets gaping. I moved the pockets up and it helped. They are still gaping a little bit, but I don't want to make these any bigger than they are because they're already kind of falling off me. But I like them. I wasn't sure how well they were going to work, so I ended up putting hooks and eyes in here instead of the planned buttons. I wanted to make sure that everything was comfy before I put holes in the center front of my trousers. Or I might be really lazy and just leave them as is, because I kind of like the line without the buttons. The only catch is that the skirt hook and eyes tend to come undone. So I'm gonna wear these a little bit and make a decision based on whether or not they come apart or not. So my original idea for the drum was to purchase a used snare drum somewhere and use that to draw all over. However, I soon learned that you cannot purchase a used snare drum for anything under a couple of $100s. So that option was off the table. I've been racking my brain for months trying to figure out how to make a drum. It doesn't have to work, it doesn't have to make noise, but it needs to be the right look and shape to resemble the drum from the Sgt. Pepper cover. I went back to visit my folks recently on vacation, and I just happened to mention in passing that I needed to figure out how to make a drum, and my dad had a really good idea to use a bucket as a base. So he sacrificed a bucket for me, cut it out, and I think it was a great idea. Not only did we cut the top of the bucket off so it looks like we have the drum hardware on the edges, but it's exactly the right size, didn't cost me any money, and has handle hooks, which means that I'm going to be able to put a strap on this so I can carry it around instead of just walking around with it like a doofus. However, it's white and I don't want it to be white. So tomorrow morning, before it gets hot, I'm going to go outside, sand it down with some fine grit sandpaper, and spray paint it gold. For those of you who watched my Beetlejuice Blazer video, you know I mentioned I plan to use the thread holder box for the drum. Yay for reusing materials! This nice thin cardboard will serve as a base for the 2 drum heads. I want them to look like real drum heads, so the idea is to use parchment paper to cover the cardboard so it looks more realistic. So the one side of the drum is going to be a parody of the Sgt. Pepper drum, and the other side is going to say, "It's showtime." Naturally. After several attempts, I decided drawing a sandworm template was definitely the way to go. Did you know that this costume is brought to you by you? Thanks to all of my amazing supporters over on Ko-fi, we were able to raise the funds for this epic project. I couldn't have done it without you, and would have spent probably another 5 years pining away for this costume. So thank you for helping to support this channel. The link is pinned down below if you would like to help support us financially, or you can hit the like button and say hello in the comments. The first side of this is easy, just a quick push into the drum and a nice thick layer of hot glue around the cardboard to secure. The second side though is more of a struggle, aided by the fact that I used parchment paper, and you know what doesn't stick to parchment paper? Everything! Struggle bus, struggle bus, struggle, struggle, struggle bus. So the drum does look a little bit amateur. The words aren't lined up correctly. Paint is coming off. This side was just impossible to get in straight because the parchment paper kept coming. I mean, it's not stuck at all. I could just pull this off if I wanted to. So it's a little goofy, but it'll do for now. I don't have the spoons to redo it this close to Halloween. So I'll probably at some point get a different surface, redo all of this. Yeah, that's gonna take forever. And then, you know, get it all fixed before I wear it to any kind of convention. You can make a tricorn hat out of any standard hat with a floppy brim. I picked one of 100% wool and steamed the crown down to fit my tiny child's head. First order of business was to hand sew some trim on the edges. If you're pondering the weird angle here, it's at this point in the journey that finally, after 4 years of avoidance, I'd finally gotten that thing and was so sick I could literally not sit upright for more than a minute at a time. Once the trim was on, all that you have to do is tack each third of the brim at equidistant points around the crown. It's that easy. Of course, this is Fantastical Follies, so I decided to zhuzh it up more by making some felt decorations. Not everybody got the Taco Belle joke, and that one was obvious, so my thought is between the drum, the Beatles hair, and the yellow submarine on the hat, it might be obvious enough to help the not pun inclined to get the joke a little faster. Also made a couple of Beatles, but they didn't make the cut. Now let's take this cute-ass blazer and give it some improvements. If you watched the video where we made the Beetlejuice blazer, you may recognize this fabric. This is the front lining of the blazer, which we're going to embellish with sandworms. Woo! The design is not very big, but the trick is with this is you have to do one color at a time. You have to do 2 coats and you have to wait for each coat to dry before you move on to the next. So even though this is a small thing, it's probably gonna take me all afternoon. These are the paints that we're using. The Jacquard, Lumiere, and Neo-Paint paint are by far the most superior fabric paints that you can buy. These are available at Dharma Trading. I think they're like $4 a piece or something. They're not expensive. The Neo-Paint is matte, and the Lumiere, which you've seen me use several times on this channel, is metallic and it's got the nicest sparkle. The rule is we start light and work our way dark. I don't know about you, but I'm a huge sucker for a fun lining. One of the first decisions I made about this costume was that the lining was going to be painted with sandworms. It's like this fun little secret. And Beetlejuice himself is such a skis bag that I'm going to have a heck of a lot of fun yelling, "Wanna see my sandworm?" at people and seeing their trepidation and mild disgust before I flash these babies at them. I'm mature. The cool thing about a project like this is trying to figure out how to make these pieces multitaskers. Both the trousers and the blazer will be going into rotation in my everyday wardrobe, although probably not together because that striped suit is so iconic. While the drum is definitely a unitasker, it was free to make, and the hat is definitely going to get a lot of use whenever I need to dress up like a pirate. Which happens more often than you think. Unfortunately, when I opened the black, it was gloppy, which sucks. That's never happened before. I don't have time to order another, so I decided to just add some water to it and hope for the best. It definitely made life a struggle and the sandworms a little messier than I'd like, but you gotta make do. And in the end, it's just lining. There it is. You need to heat set this paint to make it wash safe. I think it looks great. Now just gotta hand tack that into the blazer. I do wish I had moved this further down the jacket, because when you flip it around, it's way up by my shoulder and it's gonna be hard to be like, hey, look at my sandworm. To make the epaulettes, draw out the design on cardstock. Cut out 4 total. Cut out 2 pieces of batting the same size as the cardstock. Cut out another set of batting with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You want 4 of these in total. You want 4 pieces of fashion fabric with a full inch seam allowance around each. We'll assemble the top piece first. Glue the smallest piece of batting to your cardstock. Add a larger piece of batting. Now fold the seam allowance over and glue to the underside. Repeat with 1 piece of fashion fabric. For the bottom piece, repeat the process with the remaining piece of batting and fashion fabric. You can opt to sew your epaulettes on, but I like the idea of being able to remove them to wear the blazer as is, so I sewed a couple of pins onto the bottom of each. Make sure they go in the same direction. Glue each top and bottom piece together. Let's add some fringe. And then just to make it a little more uniform, I decided to add some of this black braid over top. Good morning. I just finished filming the blazer reveal outside before it got hot out, and now I guess we can do the last final touch on the Beetlejuice costume. That's going to be 2 pieces of braid on either side of the jacket front to add a little bit more military detail.
It's showtime. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64,000 years old? All the ghostly people, where do they all belong? Lucy in the sky with sandworms. Why don't we do it in the road? No one will be watching us, know what I mean?
It's done! Oh, I'm so happy with it. I've got several occasions scheduled to wear it this spooky season, and I know this is going to be one of my all-time favorite cosplays. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was so much fun to make, and if you did and would like to see more Beetlejuice fun, you can check out the entire Beetlejuice playlist right here on the screen. Thanks for watching. I love y'all, and I'll catch you in my next video.